Hey Hiro, thank you for your explanations. Do you think it's really viable to play Stormblade good without Tina? Oh my god. I think I know which video you've watched. Could that be like a certain tier list video? Like a certain tier list video? Yeah. I can read it out of your words, my guy. I mean, if Tina was that required, how do stuff cleared on my characters without focusing on Tina? And like, if it was that required, like even like here in the party finder, you can like write. This is bugged, but here you can write, right? Why doesn't it say like Tina required? Why doesn't it say like your leg on the master? Like, why doesn't it say Tina anywhere? Wait. By the way, T and N, if you see this, it just means tank and healer. T is tank and N nourishment is healer. So the only Tina I'm seeing here is the boss. So Stormblade, and you didn't even really mention Yaido. This is more like the example the guy brought up is the Yaido. And yeah, I guess it does help, but it does the same thing for like other classes. Like I talked about this before. Like the strongest skill for especially every DPS, but pretty much every class in general. Besides, like, yeah, for healer it's kind of capped to say that, but the strongest skill is your Imagine active. Like using the active Imagine. Right, we go here. Just to showcase it if you aren't in the loop, if you're new to the game. Yo, loading screen, too long. Okay. Yeah. So here I do have my Imagine actors right now, right? And they all have an active and a passive effect. Right here you can see it, active, passive. So this is obviously active all the time you have it equipped, not if you just have it. Like these are not gonna be giving me the passive effect. So you can like activate all of them and then like craft all of them and then say like, yeah, I'm decked out on passive effects. If you think that. So only the ones equipped. But the active effect, especially for DPS, also for some of the, like, for example, like these tank Imagine, the active effect is very, very strong. And for some DPS classes, like, it's gonna provide you a lot of stat boost. So that is why the active Imagine effect is like the strongest skill for any class in the game, especially for DPS. So with Tina, you can reduce the cooldown of those. Like, you want your DPS to use their stuff, and then you activate Tina and it ticks down faster. So they're gonna have it again sooner. And the buff that they get, for example, from like Muku Chief, which is like the most popular DPS Imagine in the game, Yeah. This is like R1, but thing. Let's view it here. Kind of looks a bit scuffed, but yeah, translation overlay. So the active buff you get on tier 0 is you get 500 crit, and you get 20 increased crit damage on top of already having the passive effect of 10% crit damage. You're getting 500 crits, which is like over one item, like one endgame item, except the weapon. The weapon gives more. In one set also focus. And you're also getting 20 crit damage for 20 seconds, right? So obviously this is like one of the best things in the game, right? Like the best skill. It's like here I already have like 140 and gives me 20 crit. So if we can like decipher that, like that imagine active is gonna give me like 10% more crit chance, right? And 20% crit damage from the active, so it's pretty good for like 20 seconds. Increase my stats by a lot, and obviously like this is just tier 0. On tier 5 it's like double that. So 20% crit chance and like what 40% crit damage. So Tina is just good for any DPS and also for the other classes. Like just by the nature of it reducing imagine cooldowns, like this is the most important part of it. Like getting some of the skills cooldown, yeah, can be like nice, but on some classes, like getting skill cooldown, it doesn't really do anything. Like on Icicle, for example, Icicle has a lot of spammable skills, so yeah, it does like a little bit. You get like maybe your ult back a bit faster, so you can set up your ult again. Like your ult does give you like a damage boost field for a bit if you skill it. This is like such a small part of it, like 90%, like I would say like 90%, kind of depends on the class, but Tina's power is due to reducing the imagine cooldown. So yeah, and any class is viable, free to play. I wouldn't worry about it. Like the game's also so easy, and yeah. Also like in that on that note, also if you've seen a certain pay to win video, don't get baited by this stuff. Like Airona also, I keep saying this, Airona is not as necessary as people make it out to be. It's good if you're pretty bad at the game, and it's good for like pugging, but it's not necessary at all in the game right now, unless you want to do like really high master, because there are like some cheeses that will like either require you to have Airona or make it like much easier to do, to like get it done, but it's highly optional content. It doesn't give you anything in the game for any like actually progression content in the game that actually gives you something. Airona is not required at all. It just required for raids if you are not that good at the game, or if you suspect your players that you are playing with to be not that good at the game. Like coming from actually like difficult games, this is gonna sound harsh, but IMO, like, not that it, I'm saying like it should be that way, but the raids are so easy that if you die on the raid, you probably don't deserve to clear it. No, it's really not that difficult. Like, maybe on the first clear, yeah, some things do a bit more damage. But if you think about like getting Airona or getting Tina, I would probably always go Tina. The only like thing you could say about it, of course, like Airona, most people only get at tier 0, because going beyond that just means your team is absolutely trash. Because on the healers, or also like you can run it on a tank, like the like stat bonus that you get from the passive, saying not that important unless you're playing conserve. Really doesn't matter as much. So going from like what, 6% to 15%, like 9% increase for like almost $2K. That's not worth it. So the most important thing here in this upgrade is that the cooldown time of the revive goes down. But if you do really need like 50 to cut down 50 seconds on your team dying, on your players dying, like at that point they're so bad at the game, like I don't know. I don't know, like that's crazy. So Airona people mostly only get a tier 0, and for Tina obviously like the advancements are a lot more impactful. But even like tier 0 Tina, if you're going free to play or even low spender, don't get more than tier 0, just get tier 0. And people won't even know if it's tier 0 or tier 4, like unless you get tier 5, which does change the optic of it. People are not gonna notice. And even tier 0 is pretty good. So yeah. Hey Steps, welcome, welcome. That's a lot of imagine yapping here. And just me jumping around, because that's what I do if I yap about stuff and don't have anything to do. Hope you don't mind. I want to try Stormblade when the games come out. Yeah, give it a try, man. Stormblade is definitely a fun class. But yeah, you don't need Tina for Stormblade. If I didn't mention that, by the way, like because I didn't like quite mention it in your question, but of course you don't want to get Tina on Stormblade. So even in like the tier list video, Visually says you want your like friend to get it, because you will use your like, I'm not on Stormblade right now, but in the Yaido case, you have a skill kind of like this one, looks a bit like this one, like the yellow skin skill, kind of similar to this. So you activate it and you get a buff for like 2 seconds. This buff heavily increases like your damage output, basically. And then you're also gonna pop your Imagines. Pop these, pop the buff, and then you're pumping, right? You're pumping. And you have like a passive buff, improvement. You have the buff from your skills going on, so you're really pumping. But then after a while, the buffs run out, both from the Imagines and your person buff. So yeah, your DPS is gonna be like lower. Like some classes are just more burst oriented than others. But that doesn't mean that like Tina is required. Like the game is not that hard that it requires you to get Tina pay to win. And I know that like even like for like, of course it's like very class specific, but you can of course adapt your rotation or how you use your skills to make it more efficient, so the downtime will be less. But even then, like, not like you're doing, suddenly you're doing 0 DPS, it's just like that there's a lot of burst and then there's like less damage because not only your Imagines run out, but your personal buff runs out. But yeah, this for like a lot of classes. Hi Ezra, welcome. How much impact on gameplay is it when you're doing quests solo as a tank support opposed to DPS? It's pretty easy. There's nothing like in the game it's solo that you can do solo. Like when I say that, there's like one thing that supposedly like you could solo. Those are the world bosses, but really like either DPS or like here tank, you should just group it. Like people do them all the time. You just look